Hello and welcome to another edition of Code Remix Weekly. We're your usual hosts, Sam and Tim. I'm Sam. That's Tim. How you doing, Tim?
Doing well, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, doing well. It is just absolutely gorgeous days here in Seattle's blue skies, light puffy clouds. I kind of want to be outside right now, but it'd be inconvenient to drag my streaming setup out there. How about you? You've been getting outside recently? You've been doing any rock climbing?
Not rock climbing. I am considering I'm gonna go to France in 2 weeks, and there's a really good bouldering nearby. So I'm
Oh,
considering just
nice.
going there and extending the weekend. We have a Dutch 3-day weekend because we have a king, and that means you get an extra day off. And then
Damn,
might do
that
some
sounds
bouldering.
nice. So you're going to France just for fun? There's not like a conference that you're presenting at?
There is a conference I'm presenting at.
There is a conference you're presenting at. Is it on breaking your testing habits?
No, this is a new one on, I should know this, deterministic modernization in the age of AI. That's
Cool. Well, that sounds cool and relevant and 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 relevant to our current speaker today.
yeah, absolutely. So curious to see what angles he's using, and then from there
Yeah, we can
yeah.
swap notes.
No,
What
definitely.
updates do we have for the people this week?
So in terms of updates, of course it is every other Wednesday. So we have a new release out, and we managed to get it almost all the way out the door, but I didn't manage with the release notes just yet. So you'll get a new tweet out the door in a couple hours, in the last bits of it. But there is a new 8.79.0 available with continuing efforts towards expanding the coverage for Scala and Go that we added recently. Also, there's a lot of fixes in there. Pretty much, if you see my name to something, it's usually a fix of some kind. And we extend that also to some of the other modules. So if you're a fan of our testing frameworks, there's I think a dozen or so fixes that we did on that end. And then yet again, if for Java migrations, there's another dozen or so fixes there. And this, only half a dozen for Spring, but it's just there's not a lot happening there until next month when a new major version comes out.
Based on how many times your name is highlighted, you've been getting a lot of mileage out of Conductor. Is that right?
I can neither confirm nor deny. Yes, but it's
Very
been
good. Very
really
good.
really helpful to triage the backlog to either fix the issue or comment that it's been closed because it was resolved in 2024, and now we don't have to keep it open anymore. So there's a really nice nosedive that we have in the open issues over the past couple of days. So then also new, looking ahead for the next couple of weeks, is that there's a lot of travel involved. Firstly, I'm going to go to Barcelona next week, where we'll meet some of the team, and there's a workshop that we're giving as well, and folks can join there and learn how to upgrade their applications these days. In parallel, we're also in Toronto at the Open Source Finance Forum, where we also have friends of ours presenting as well. And then hope to, if you're in the area, see you there as well. And then from there, there's back-to-back conferences in Cologne and Paris, which I'll both be attending. So I'll be, I don't know, still need to work out my path from Tuesday morning to Tuesday evening, having to go between those two, but we'll make it work, as we always do. And then finally, we have a virtual events if you can't attend it in person. So there's the Don't Blame the Agent, Blame the Context on the 23rd, or a new OpenRewrite introductory course on the 28th. And I think this is a shortened version as well, right? This was the 2-hour one.
Yeah, we're the 4-hour format was taxing for people, so we're trying to break up the trainings into slightly more manageable chunks. Not give everyone such flashbacks to their least favorite longest college lectures.
And if you found the previous format daunting, then now you can join in what can be considered like an extended lunch break, and then you can learn all about OpenRewrite and put it in practice in the afternoon. So hope to see you at any of those. And then finally, also new is that we put up the schedule for our own Code Remix Summit, which is coming up a month from today, almost a month and 3 days. So if you are curious about who's going to be presenting there, then have a look and from there pick your favorite topics, and hope to see you all in Miami by the beach, but also listening to some very good content from the various speakers that we have on the schedule there. So that's everything new over the past week or so. And then with that, I think we can bring on our special guest for the day. So,
hello.
The program Kito, pleasure to have you.
Glad to be here, definitely.
Yeah, so for the folks who don't know you yet, you're a Java champion, among other things. You're also a celebrated author of JavaServer Faces in Action. You're an IBM champion. You're a Google developer expert in web technologies. Did I miss anything? Or you're a host of the Stacked podcast.
Oh, yes.
So, yeah, really. Yeah. So really glad to.
What was the name of Kito's podcast? Just more clearly, so everyone could hear it.
It's the Stack D podcast. That's one way to say it. STACKD.
All right. What's the history of that name?
Well, this podcast has been around for a long time. Is sort of just an ongoing concern, but initially it was I think like the JSF Central Newscast, and then we changed it to Java EE Newscast or something, or Jakarta EE Newscast. I can't remember what time frame it was. Oh no, the Enterprise Java Newscast. That's what it was for many years. But then we do a lot of front end work too, and so did one of the other co-hosts does a lot of front end work. So we're like, well, why don't we just call it the Stack D podcast, because we do the front end and the back end. It's not just a back end podcast. Now it's kind of just like, software development, a lot of Java stuff and some front end stuff. But just a whole bunch of software developers talking, and we bring on guests and stuff. So
right. Well, that sounds familiar and relatable to me.
Yes, it all evolves over time. So I had a couple questions for you guys. So,
please.
What is Conductor? This sounds interesting.
Conductor's a tool for managing a swarm of AI agents, and we found it to be pretty useful, as Tim was saying, for bug triage. It's something that you have going and running various Claudes or other similar agents for you, and we found it helpful for staying on top of customer-reported issues. One maybe nice thing about OpenRewrite recipes, or about our code base in general, is that a lot of it is OpenRewrite recipes, which are very amenable to test-driven development. And if an AI does something kind of stupid in one of them, the blast radius is small. It only messes up that one recipe. So we've seen quite a bit of success of using AI to write recipes and to fix recipe issues. Tim, having a lot to do with customer support and customer success, is particularly motivated to bend the agents to that purpose. But how'd I do in that summary, Tim? I haven't personally used Conductor too much, so you're ahead of the curve on that one for me.
So what I would say the main benefits is that you can do a lot of work in parallel. So it starts like a Git work tree for all of the work that you're doing, and then you can have 5, 6, 7 things going in parallel until you run out of tokens, and then you switch to the other agent that you might have, and then you run out of tokens there. And that's kind of a way to maximize your usage, and also why I think at the moment the folks at Anthropic are clamping down a bit on usage in this exact way.
Yes, I've seen a lot of complaints about that. I unfortunately I started looking at the Reddit post on Claude, and now I get alerts all the time every time there's some issue, So is there like what's the URL for it? I'm just curious.
It's conductor.build is the URL.
Okay. Yeah. So it's basically it's an agent orchestration platform, it sounds like.
Yeah. And it's, in our case, like having those work trees started for you and being able to select across the 70 or so modules that we have, like just start the thing and let me know when you're done. I don't know, pretty helpful to get a lot done, as you could see.
Yeah, no, it looks, even just looking at it, it sounds, because I'm starting to do a lot of stuff with Claude and other agents. I've been playing with like Claude, AMP actually from SourceGraph I've been playing with as well. and I'm going to be playing with IBM Bob since I'm IBM champion. I'm really curious actually to see what's different about it too. I love playing with these things. So
yeah, sure.
But having them automatically do the whole checkout tree and stuff would be save me time because.
Yeah, I think.
Even on my main machine, and I use Linux where I can't use Conductor, but I've been I wrote a little Claude skill and a Bash script or two to produce these same kinds of workspaces. So I was finding that pretty handy. And I like to have my main kind of like one place where I'm mostly doing human work on things, but then if I want to for each like individual issue, I will to spin up a little workspace like that, and you can kind of get some similar effects just by like telling Claude, hey, work on this issue with a set of sub agents kind of thing.
Yeah, and I definitely need to. I'm slowly becoming more proficient with. It's almost like when you work with Claude, it's almost like you've got now. It's like you've got an entirely new set of tools you have to learn how to use and master.
Yeah.
There.
Yeah, I feel like I personally was maybe a little bit slow on the adoption of some of these things as emotionally having worked on OpenRewrite for so long, I kind of didn't want them to work very well. And so I had to turn a corner on that and be like, no, we can use these things together with OpenRewrite, and recipes can compensate for the shortcomings of LLMs, and LLMs can kind of compensate for the shortcomings of recipes. Although I do wonder how things will change when Anthropic or some of these other big providers are like, okay, no, really, we have to make a profit now, because like right now, if you send 5, 10, 12 agents down on a wild goose chase on some issue and they come back with some garbage, like, meh, whatever. I'll try again with a different prompt, or I'll investigate manually and like give it more specific direction. But if you were really like actually paying the API price per token, and the API price was jacked up to the point that it would be profitable for them to operate, all of these workflows we're getting very comfortable with would have to change drastically. I don't know. It's not necessarily the subject of today's interview.
It's definitely. I mean, we're kind of in this golden age in the sense of using stuff. Because even like I've been playing with AMP, and it's like, I'm using. They give you a certain number of free credits, and that's like I haven't. I'm just dabbling with it. But imagine for any new client, they have X number of free stuff they're giving away, and all these Anthropic and OpenAI are just losing money on every subscription. So so I say we get a handle on as much, and then they start jacking up the price, and then realize that developers aren't so expensive after all.
That there might well be some of that. I haven't really started dabbling with it, but I am interested in running coding models locally. Like I have a very powerful machine with the GPU, suitable for gaming at high frame rates and 96 gigabytes of memory. So I'm like, I could probably, if there's a decent like model that you can run locally, you could probably swing it. I've heard so that's something I want to experiment with.
You should, because I've heard Quinn Coder is pretty good.
This was the name of that one?
Quinn Coder. QUI.
Is that a Q? QIN? Quinn Coder?
QUI, and then I think something like that. It might be.
Quinn was a program that outputs itself, right? Its own source code.
I'm really not sure.
I think it was.
All right, well, I'm gonna look that up because that sounds interesting.
That's what I've heard. But
with like the source code of Claude leaking recently, it probably wouldn't be too difficult to get your own Claude code experience using non-Anthropic local models. Not that I'm advocating anything, but it seems ever more plausible,
Yeah, I've been meaning to look at that myself because I'm just curious. Really, I have not heard good things about it, but we'll see.
It's an interesting situation with the Python and the Rust ports that have kind of sprung up as
I did not know about that. Fascinating.
Like what's the what do you call it? The copyright on that one? It's an interesting one to plead for. So
that'll be interesting. Wow. Huh. Interesting. Well, I just to go back to what you were saying, Sam, about the whole AI tools and OpenRewrite recipes and stuff like that. Like what one, we a lot of what we do at my little consulting company called Virtua is we do a lot of sort of modernization and upgrade projects. That's basically because I've been sort of in the Java space for like 20 years or something. So we work with a lot of older applications, and
Right.
and usually we don't deal with like global 4,000 code bases or anything like that. It's more like smaller companies, but they have mission critical projects that products, I should say, that drives a large portion of the revenue for the company or the entire revenue for the company, depending on how big it is. And it's got some ancient stack, and they're like, hey, we need help. And we always are like, we basically our selling line is that like we obviously are experts with Java and front end development and cloud stuff and all the kind of bread and butter, and have been there from like the old monolith Java EE servers to like newer microservices, so we can kind of help in between. But we're always like, hey, we also use OpenRewrite to help do the migrations, and we have custom recipes for some very specific niche things like Rich Faces, which was an ancient UI library for JavaServer Faces back in the day. Because it's been end of life for like a decade, so everyone's like, oh, we need to probably switch. So we have recipes for that and for Jakarta Faces and stuff like that that are custom for us. And everyone's like, well, can I just use AI to do that? And we're like, no. First of all, there's a difference between trying to get a model to do something that you tell it to do, and having something that specifically does that thing, like deterministic. Like in situations where there's a definite point between A and B, you might as well just write code to do the translation between A and B.
Right.
And that's what we love about OpenRewrite, is that we can actually do that. And actually what we did was we did some of this work for the custom recipe stuff, which was Rich Faces to Prime Faces, and also upgrading versions of Prime Faces and things like that. We did that, like some of that work we just did initially by doing work manually. And actually, my colleague Bucky Schultz, I'll give a shout out to him. You can find him in Ballast C, is his nickname. But basically, we first just wrote down what we're doing, because we do a lot of search and replace, a lot of manually doing a lot of the things that OpenRewrite does, right? And then we're like, then after we got those down, we started just writing the recipes for it, and that's kind of
how did you first hear about OpenRewrite? Like, how did you get onboarded into this? Because because I've been working on this, for 5 years now or so, since the time before like anybody had heard of it, and now it seems like it's a bit more of a household name in Java circles. But like, I'm always out there, and Tim's always out there, like presenting at conferences and teaching classes. But you can't always tell how that is received by people, like what's moving the needle. Like, when did you hear about this, and how did you be like, we should use this for our stuff?
I can't tell you. I think there's just been, you guys have done a good enough job being around that eventually I heard it enough. And I was like,
just kind of there, like just kind of like something people in the ecosystem know about.
Yeah, and also, I mean, it helps that I am a Java champion, so I know a lot of people. I've been around a while. So I think I met Jonathan at DevNexus or something.
Yeah.
And so that, and then I was like, oh yeah, that OpenRewrite thing, so So, and then I was, once I finally looked at and understood what it did, I was like, okay, this actually makes a lot of sense. Number one, the most obvious use case is helping open source libraries upgrade, right? Or automate upgrading, which is like huge. I mean, but I realized there are a lot of areas that would automate a lot of the work we do, because we do greenfield projects, but a lot of the work is on existing applications, and there's always always things that need to be upgraded and changed, and we do a lot of refactoring. And so automating some of that stuff makes a lot of sense. What was I going to say?
Sorry, I threw you off track there.
Oh, no, it's all good. What I think is interesting is, so a lot of what we do is we'll go in and we'll analyze like a code base and be like, hey, this is what we see, this is what we think you should change and all that kind of stuff, right? And then people decide, what they want to do, and whether we're doing it or they're doing it, or there's a hybrid approach, where they're working on some things, we're working on other things. And then, where necessary, we run open rewrite recipes. Sometimes we write new ones. Usually you run into new use cases, right? And then we basically go through a process, which can be months, depending on the project, of fixing lots of bugs, right? Of cleanup work, and also finding new bugs, finding things nobody ever documented, also finding unused code paths, which like whole features which people are like, oh, I didn't know that was there. But what's interesting is all of these, and also like, I this may be a little controversial, but I really don't think the coding agents really got that good until this year. I think last year they were useful.
Okay. Yeah.
But like I used JetBrains Juni a lot because I'm an IntelliJ person. So I was like, as they announced it, I'm like, hey, put me on the list, And
colleague Knut was an early Juni fan.
Yeah, and it worked. I got some results, but it wasn't. It's more like just helpful. It's like a step above the code completion stuff. And
yeah, when my first experiences with these AI coding assistants was around the same time with like the GitHub Copilot like inline suggestions. They're probably better now, but at the time I was just like, so when I'm typing, every now and then it'll just suggest some wrong bullshit in front of me. Not helpful. I was just always like, whenever I would accept it on accident, I'd be like, great, now I got a block of gibberish to delete. And then every now and then it would do something useful. So I was, early on like, this AI stuff is overblown. This is annoying. But then when the agents came out and actually started doing useful things, it was like, oh, this is much better than those inline suggestions were. Do either of you guys have the inline coding suggestions turned on now? Just like curious for a quick poll.
What's interesting is I did the Copilot thing initially too, and I feel like they show up sometimes, but not annoyingly. So I have. But since it works, I haven't really tried to see what configuration I have,
Sure.
I think it's the JetBrains one because I think I have the Copilot stuff turned off right now. Occasionally if I use VS Code, like that has all the odd stuff there. But
okay, so that was you also said yes, right, Tim? So that was 2 votes for yes, having the inline coding. No, you haven't turned it off.
No, it's I don't know, it's the same as you, that you accidentally hit tab and then you have like 27 lines that you need to delete, and you think I wasn't what I wanted to do.
Yeah, I think the mistake was assigning the accept suggestion key to tab. Like if it was just some other key, because I was always just like, I'm just changing the white space on this block of code. Like, oh no, there's a bunch of other stuff there now.
Yes.
And if it was a different key, I might not have had that. What's your accept inline coding suggestion hotkey, Kito?
I don't even know, to be honest. It tells you I don't really use it much, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, I wonder if it's just that when you start with like an agent or a chat interface, you provide some natural language description of your intent, like what you're trying to do. Whereas the inline coding suggestions, they don't know, have like no hint unless you start with like a comment of like this method,
Right, and then.
Those are the few times I would get some okay-ish inline suggestions would be when I'd be like, time to write a method that is going to read a file into a buffer, and then it would, often give me that little snippet pretty successfully. But I think the coding agents benefit from just that intent in a way that the inline suggestions can struggle with.
Yeah, I can see that. I think probably there was one time this is like a couple years ago. I was messing with Copilot. And I did get it to, I was just creating like a domain model or something, and it was generic. So I created a person or something, and spat out all the generic copies of the person. I was like, oh my god, this is amazing. Like, so I found it was really great for stuff like that, but that's really not. It just saves me a little bit of time. So
yeah.
But like so when people are like, hey, should you use AI to do all this stuff? Well, it's like, on all of our projects so far, we weren't using them. I mean, we're using it like basically like what we're talking about. Like, we are a little bit of basic stuff. But now like if we were to go back, we probably would go, actually use it to write the recipes up front. And write the tests. But also, like, I don't, when it comes to making manual changes to the code base, depending on the size of the project, that's not really, I think there are some areas where Claude might struggle, especially on
absolutely
basis. I know there's what is it, Bark or something? It's supposed to handle Brock. It's supposed to handle large code bases, but I have not looked at it.
I haven't tried that one either. What did you say that was called? Bark?
It's Brock. BROKK. Yes.
Brock.
I have not played with it yet, but I had someone. I was like, okay, this is the first one that actually is.
According to the first search result, Brock is the world-leading manufacturer of remote-controlled demolition robots. Sweet.
So that's where they got the name. Okay.
Brock. Search for Brock coding agent.
AI. So
AI for large code bases.
Yeah. Maybe some good explosives is just what your code base needs.
That might be why it's so good at dealing with large code bases.
It's very small, and then you're good to go. Yeah. I mean, and I had the presentation that sparked this talk, I should say. I did at the Montreal Java Users Group, because I was there for what's the conference?
Montreal's a lovely city.
It's beautiful. Kung Fu, that's what it was.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, it was my first time there. So, but one of the people in the audience is like, well, one approach that I've seen work is, basically just distilling the requirements from the application and rewriting the whole thing using AI. And I was like, I think that would work for smaller applications, but like and that certainly, like, especially if you've got something that's sitting in the corner that you just need to rewrite, it's a great idea. But for, sort of a large mission critical application, it's just too complicated. Like, unless you have buy-in from people to actually rewrite the app, which is different, then you got to work on UIX, because I find that usually if you've got an older application, the user interface isn't that good. And
it might be quite tightly coupled to the back end, depending on like what design patterns they were working with. You might break the UI trying to fix and change things in the back end, even incrementally.
Yeah. And if you're going to rewrite the whole thing, you kind of might want to rethink how you want it to work a little bit. So, which, is fine.
Yeah.
But not a lot of companies are willing to do that. Like, actually, what we find is actually they are willing to do a rewrite, and a lot of them are in the process, but like they still need their old stuff to work. So they might be like doing some big, like, refactor and let's say we're looking at an old Jakarta Faces backend, and they're in the middle of an Angular migration, or these days a React migration or whatever. But the old stuff still has to work, and they still have clients that don't want security vulnerabilities in their old stuff. So there's still a lot of that work to do.
How unreasonable of them! Don't they know that code is old?
Yes.
And that's the thing. If the majority of your revenue comes from the project that is 20 years old, you kind of like need to keep it going to fund the rewrite.
Yeah, we had some friends, our customers at a bank in Montreal, actually, where one of the engineers we had been working with was told, hey, these like 40 they got like 40 repositories here that make some app that does something. And all the people who worked on it are long gone, but it's still in production. So just FYI, if there's any problems with it, you're on the hook for them. And like, there's no one who can explain this code base to you still here. Like, just it's your responsibility now. Like, deal with it. And and part of how he and his team rose to that challenge was to take the find call graph recipe from the OpenRewrite recipe catalog and spits out a data table of every like this class, this method calls this method from this other class. And he dumped that into like some kind of searchable vector database. I forget which one, just so that he could easily query and be like, okay, if there's an error at this spot, what are all the things that like kind of lead to that, and what are all the things that come out from that, right? Like how could I get here? You know, what would be the consequences of like changing something here? And you know, I haven't talked with him in a little while, but he said that was very useful for onboarding onto this new old code base that dropped into his lap.
I really like that. That's a really good idea.
Yeah, I thought that was quite clever, and I could totally see how, and this is something like we actively explore these days, of how, you know, with like pre-think, of like how you can get better results out of these LLMs faster if you can like provide them with context about the code that you scrape deterministically. Especially if you like go with like Claude or something to like a new repository, the first thing it does is a bunch of greps and reading individual files. And if you already know the code base, sometimes you're like, you're just like stabbing in the dark, right? Like you're guessing wildly. And again, while tokens are effectively free, that, you know, whatever, you let it run for a little while. But as soon as they're actually going to bill you for them, you might be really annoyed. Like, no, don't look at that. That's irrelevant. This is the important thing.
Well, especially at scale, like, you know, if you've got like the whole multiple teams of engineers using this stuff, you kind of don't want to be wasting tokens.
No. But yeah, I'm really interested to hear more about your experiences with migrating these big, large old code bases. As in a past job, I was on a team that was kind of like deciding, like, okay, we've got this old app to rewrite, and it was the like all the management and administrative stuff for a server application that was supposed to be both like deployable on-prem and in a cloud configuration, and, you know, be like run as a single application or as like a highly available configuration where there are multiple shards and different number of services. And so this was like the administrative control plane that would like help you configure all of the different ways the server application could run. And the rewrite for that, they ended up choosing a rewrite strategy. Like, I wasn't in the meeting where they chose that over the incremental strategy, but they're like, we're going to do a full rewrite because I guess that's what one of the staff engineers, you know, really insisted upon. And they got there eventually, but it took, you know, a year or so longer and a lot more money than they had intended to do it. And I always wondered, I almost felt like it probably would have gone a bit better if they had chosen a more incremental strategy where they could upgrade one thing at a time and not have to, you know, redo the entire world and then, you know, shift from one atlas to another kind of thing.
Yeah.
You can also like deliver some value incrementally as opposed to at the very end when you're done after 3 years. And then,
it's like, I think it's easier for stakeholders if like they know that, okay, you delivered something already as opposed to waiting.
You're actually like seeing some progress.
And I mean, and we've seen sort of both approaches, and I think it depends a lot on you know, all the different factors involved and what management wants to do and what their time frame is like and all that kind of stuff. So like what we saw with the incremental strategy was kind of interesting, and I think more often you see Big Bang, which is easier. Because you just create a new branch.
It's easier to get started with. It's not always easier to see through to completion.
Yes, exactly. And there's different levels. I mean, more of what we've seen is like you're still doing more of an upgrade migration thing, but not a full rewrite. And in that situation, you still have a choice of doing stuff incrementally. Although full rewrites are a lot more fun, though, I will say.
They're definitely more fun, and they're maybe more plausible if you're not just like, we want to modernize, but we also want to like radically re-architect this app in some way. Like, this thing was meant to run on a single mainframe before, and now we want to run it on a fleet of virtual machines. Maybe you can't quite do that as incrementally,
Yes.
or the incremental path might just be much longer.
Yeah. What was interesting is on the incremental approach that we were on for one client, they it was pretty much like very it was very well managed, but it was a lot of overhead managing it. And we're kind of going, they basically broke down, and this is also like a console app for a system that manages security for a whole bunch of devices, like, basically every single device that's involved with network stuff. So in a lot of these, and this is actually what we find is that, like, because since we deal a lot with companies that have a UI component, there's really complicated user interfaces, but they don't have like tons of users. So they just need to do a lot of things, right? So they basically broke it down into a whole bunch of stories, and we kind of went through them incrementally, and basically we upgraded to a certain level, right? And then the blocker for a lot of the upgrades was this rich faces library, because it was ancient and all its dependencies couldn't be upgraded until it was gone, right?
Right.
So basically we upgraded to this level, and then we kind of had to migrate all the pages over to not use rich faces, and then we're able to upgrade like everything. So it was like a Spring Boot and Jakarta E stuff in there and everything. So the most of the work was sort of the migration of all these pages. So basically we kind of went through not page by page, but like sort of like function by function, and worked on it. And they were involved with helping us make sure we tested. They went through QA and went back into the main branch. The whole thing didn't go into production until much later, but it still got integrated into the whole workflow, and they were able to, I think it mitigated a lot of risk, because the app worked all along the way, which was nice.
Yes. Yeah. Being able to like keep things in an always working state can be so beneficial for quality. I don't know if you guys have probably had the experience of being on, or at least hearing about a team that's like, yeah, the build hasn't been green in 6 months, but we keep checking stuff in and, marking things down as done in the backlog. When are we shipping? Who knows?
Yeah.
Have you ever been on or been adjacent to a team like that? I've never been on a team like that, but when I was an intern at Microsoft, there was I met some other intern who was working on like, I don't know, Visio or something that later got rolled in, not Visio, but something that later got like rolled into Skype, or which later got rolled into Teams. And that was a situation that at the time he described on their team. And I'm like, wow, you're getting an education about the software industry, but maybe not a good one.
Yeah, I think I've managed to avoid something quite like that. I think
that's good.
The closest we've come into is like, prototypes or something, which
is fine if a prototype doesn't work right.
Yeah, exactly.
That's allowed.
Yeah, exactly. So interesting.
Right, that's good.
Well, there's one other thing which I think is fascinating, which we've run into, because whenever we think about an upgrade or modernization, I normally think about the code part. It's like, okay, what code base is it? First of all, is it Java, or is it TypeScript or JavaScript, or what are we working with? What kind of dependencies does it have? What other parts are involved? Like, is there an app server? Or is it just like running, as a microservice, or just as a process? But there's all these other things that like we don't always think about, and we're running into. So one of the things we find, because it's an older application, right? So we've had multiple clients that are still running Subversion. And some of them don't want to switch to get some of them. And what usually we find is that this app is using Subversion, but there is some Git and some other applications, and so migrating to Git is not that hard of a sell because they know they need to do it. So there's that, which is interesting. We've run into old ancient build scripts, like Ant, if anyone remembers Ant from back in the day.
Yep.
And, the people are using that, and it's like now, especially with OpenRewrite, it's like we're not going to get OpenRewrite to work with your ant build. Like, I do not want to do that. So you must Mavenize. It is a requirement, and we had to push on that on one of our engagements. We're like, well, can't we just leave the build? I'm like, no, you got to Mavenize this thing. You can use Maven if you want, but we like Maven. It's just easier for us to work with. So let's just do Maven. We'll do it for you. It's fine.
It's one of those 5 steps, right? That you start with denial, and then there's anger. And then
move on to acceptance. Yeah. Ant and Ivy are in a weird way what kind of got me into OpenRewrite and developer tooling in general. Yeah, it's because when I worked at Tableau, I worked on Tableau Server, which had been a Ruby on Rails app. And right at the time I joined the company, they had mostly gotten through a translation of that to being a Java Spring Boot application. But there were, in the homegrown kind of like amalgamation of a build they had, there were still vestiges of the old Ruby stuff and like things that had been incompletely migrated. So there was like a Python wrapper that would call CMake to build the native components, which were, a shared dependency of Tableau Desktop and Tableau Server. And then it would call RubyMake, which would do a few little Ruby things and was mostly hollowed out to call an Ant and Ivy build to do the Java components. And this build was a horrible developer experience, right? And the company was growing like very rapidly. So there were people were coming in and not knowing what to do with this build. And I would just, I didn't really know Ant or Ivy, but I just like poked around at it until I could fix a few of the things that were most like annoying me and my coworkers. And then that got a principal engineer to notice me and be like, hey, we need like a team put together to modernize our build. Like, can you guys go look at the alternatives, Maven, Gradle, Buck, Bazel, and make a recommendation as to what we should do. And we ended up converting the build to Gradle, and that kind of set me on the path of working on developer tooling and such. So I will say that Ant and Ivy was important to my personal journey as a software engineer, and is absolutely something I will never put on a resume. I would never want someone like reaching out to me for a job because of that. I mean, these days we could help people a bit, as Modern, but I don't personally want to be like hired in a role to like, oh, good, we have a huge Ant and Ivy build you can sort out for us.
I don't know. I find that stuff kind of fun. But
it can be, yeah.
What it was, I forgot how flexible Ant is. Like,
you can kind of do anything, it's whatever you want in there.
I know, because it's like the build, we're like, oh my god, it does this, it does that, it does this. So it's crazy. Like, and actually there is this like Ant call plugin in Maven where you can just call parts of Ant.
Yep.
Using that for a little bit.
Yeah. Gradle will do similar things.
Yeah.
Back to the denial there and the bargaining.
Yes, indeed. Another thing which we've run into, which I hadn't thought about, because some of our clients have their clients are on-prem.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of it's sometimes we're even air-gapped. But we've had clients that actually need to have installers. Which I never think about anymore. Like, I'm just, because I don't write desktop software. So
sure.
My first thought is, does it go onto like a CD? Do you need to find like a tower that?
I think some machine that actually is on the internet downloads it, and then they have
stupid. Probably carry it over on a USB stick kind of thing.
Yeah, maybe so.
I have heard about. I haven't seen this myself, but I have heard about secure environments like gluing up the USB ports on many machines to like prevent people from like picking up a USB key in the parking lot and being like, "Oh, what's this do?"
Well, yeah, I mean, there's always that whatever spy movie or show you're watching where like the person goes in there with this USB stick. I don't know if they still do this, but they used to. And they'd find whatever machine and stick it in, and then they'd type all this stuff, and all this code flies past the screen, and then like the building blows up or something.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, you don't want that to happen.
No. You make sure blow up the building is tightly permissioned.
Yes. Only to those with admin access. Only they can vault the building.
Yeah. Only for a very good reason.
So I have a question for you. So I've been following Modern for a while. I noticed you've rebranded into the Agent Tools company. So, and I have not. I know you have the pre-think, but I have not looked into much about. I mean, I can kind of guess what it is, but so I'll tell you. Actually, I'll tell you my guess, and you can tell me how wrong I am.
Okay, yeah, let's hear the guess.
All right. So since OpenRewrite and obviously the Modern product creates the LST, right? Basically, the idea is that you generate LSTs and then feed that to the agent in some format, presumably they can understand. I'm guessing that's what it is.
Yeah, it is. It is kind of along those lines. Let's see if I have a run that I could show you some interesting results for, perhaps. This one's looking a little. This one's looking a little anemic. The idea is basically go through the. I actually had a run where I was working on this recently. Let me see if I can pull that up. But go ahead, Tim.
We just did one for OpenRewrite. If you're curious to find a run in the platform.
Oh, cool.
Oh yeah, that would be perfect.
But the way we hook things up is slightly different in the most visible part. So we're not hooking up the LST directly to an agent, but the pre-think specifically is aimed at distilling elements using the LST and using recipes into a format that is very easily digested by agents. So that can be tabular. It's something that we just make available as, let's say, files in the project, for instance, or files stored outside somewhere across projects. And then we update the Claude MD file or the relevant files for other agents for them to more easily reference what they should know about your project if they want to do something.
Okay.
So say that you have that large monolithic application that you're trying to modernize, and you have yourself an understanding how to find endpoints, but you have no idea how many endpoints you have or where they might be defined. We would write a recipe that lists all of them, produces a tabular format, and then exposes in one line within the Claude MD file. By the way, if you're looking for endpoints, those are all listed out here, and then with a link back to the source code.
Okay.
And then endpoints is just one thing, and then we have another 20 things that we can determine, like storage connections, the messaging in the infrastructure, dependencies, all kind of code quality, code standards, test coverage, test gaps, all of those things we can like mix and match and expose to agents, such that they start their workday having intimate knowledge of your application, as opposed to intimate knowledge of the tool grep and then try to build up some semblance of that knowledge inefficiently.
Yeah, and by using up a lot of your tokens in the process.
Yeah, absolutely. So
yeah, the idea is, obviously save tokens and like cut down on that like initial like search period when you're when you're spinning up a coding agent to do something. There was some quote that I heard recently that I'm half remembering, where someone was like, every time you start up a new Claude session, you've just like hired a new junior engineer and have to like onboard them into the code base before they can do any work. And so the idea is to cut down on the onboarding time, as well as like, and kind of relatedly, be able to instruct the coding agent how to use some of the like our new like fast structured search capabilities. Like we've implemented the trigrep search, which underpins several kind of code search tools, like what is it, like CodeQL maybe? I forget. I shouldn't say, since I can't remember exactly which ones use this trigrep thing, but it lets you do like structural and semantic search really, really quickly. And so we could say, hey, use this rather than grep kind of thing.
That makes total sense.
And the benefit there for larger projects is that it makes any kind of lookup like O1 instead of ON. So it's a very quick way to access things that you want to know. Like in your case, you'd be interested in where are my JavaServer Faces pages to find, and you'd have an immediate listing complete. And then from there, it's an easier way to find the one that you're interested in for the exact page.
Yeah, yeah, and also, for applications that don't use that, it's more for us to be more like, you know, like working with some. I don't know. Well, we work with a lot of like older Jakarta EE in general applications, so just going through that and helping basically informing the agent like what are the endpoints, what are the REST endpoints, and often we'll work with applications that have they might have embedded Tomcat in there, and some of them have Spring Boot, and then also have a lot of Jakarta stuff. It's kind of a mix and match. So being able to get that up front would save a lot of time.
Yep. No, definitely. Cool. So yeah, and you're probably well familiar with recipes and data tables already, and this is just a way to then execute that upfront very cheaply using the serialized LSTs that we have. And then from there, expose it and leverage it to the fullest extent.
Makes sense. And I had a question for you guys. Oh yeah, I know what it was. How do you foresee because I've noticed there's a few companies that are working on sort of deploying skills at scale. So a couple there's like a Sentry, I think it was Sentry, but the site is skills.new, and then Tessel has doing the same sort of thing. And so we're getting to the point now where we're going to have like skill package managers and things like that, which is interesting to me. So how do you kind of see OpenRewrite and that kind of stuff fitting in? Because the skills are sort of, you could say skills will let you do a rewrite sort of thing, but I don't think they would. But they would give you an idea about how to do new code.
Yeah, well, what we've already done is package several skills into the Modern CLI. So like there is a mod CLI command you can run now. It's like mod config agent tools install, and that will go and check which AI systems you have installed on your machine, and then drop in the relevant folder several skills for doing things like writing recipes and collecting an organization of or a group of repositories to like test or run those recipes on. And so the idea is to facilitate recipe development so that people, wherever possible, you can be running a deterministic scalable recipe that isn't going to cost you tokens, compared to just telling the AI to do it on its own.
Right. That makes total sense. Basically ensuring that it will use stuff when it can.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, for those like last mile gaps or like the one little thing needs to change and it's not worth writing a recipe for this one incredibly specific case. Yeah, we are already in an LLM. Just let it finish off, dot that final I or cross that final T.
Right. That makes sense.
And what we do find is the skills are definitely very helpful, but they're most helpful when you give them tools that they can do to deterministically do a lot of the work there already. As you know, if you're working on a very large application, you don't want to flip a bunch of coins and hope that they all land correctly.
Yes.
And then providing those agents with good context, we find is another great way to make them more reliable. So use skills and context that are deterministic, each in and of themselves, helped by recipes and the tools that we developed. But those really allow you to get reliable outcomes at scale using just everything that we provide.
That makes sense. So how do you? Because right now, and obviously I know more about OpenRewrite than the Modern.
Sure.
But so if we wanted to run OpenRewrite on an existing project, we basically would add it to the Gradle build or the Maven build. There is a way I remember that you can run it without actually adding it to the POM or the.
Yeah, the Modern CLI will, when you invoke it to build an LST for a project, just injects it, it detects whether it's a Gradle repository or Maven or Bazel and injects the relevant plugin to build the LST so that you don't have to manually go in and edit the build files. The idea being, particularly if you're working across multiple repositories, it'd be quite a tedious thing to do for all of them.
Definitely. So, okay, that makes sense.
And it's not just figuring out what build tool there is. There's also like the hints that you need, like what Java version does this project need, based on the various things you can deduce, like what is it configured to use, what does it actually use, what dependencies are incompatible with newer versions of Java. There's a lot of fun stuff that you just don't want to figure out if you have 1,000 projects, that we can help you with if you use the modern side, the CLI.
Right.
Yeah, the typical kind of pattern we recommend to customers is setting up mass ingest, which is basically give the CLI a CSV file full of all the repositories you want to build. Then it goes and churns out LSTs for all of them, publishes them to somewhere on your Artifactory or your whatever artifact repository you're using. And then whenever anyone's going to go do a recipe run, it just downloads the pre-built LST, so you can skip the parsing step and get right to it. And what we're kind of working on right now is how can we make this process more incremental so that you could be doing this, during an agent like workflow, right? Like start with the pre-built LST, but then as you make changes, incrementally reparse the things that change so that you can neither have to rebuild the entire project every time, so you can re-enter and freely switch back and forth between like recipe running and the agent making changes and the human in the loop making changes. We don't have that, I would say, fully ironed out yet, but that's kind of the direction we're going in. You mentioned the agent tools rebrand earlier. Kind of the idea is, well, if you have one human piloting 20 agents, if you can make the 20 agents better, there's just like more leverage there than making the one human better. And I mean, obviously you can do that too, give the human better tools, right? But if you can, provide context, those 20 agents are more efficient or, are better able to accomplish their tasks, then there's like a force multiplier. There's leverage there.
Yep. That makes total sense. Sorry, go ahead.
We're getting close to time and having a lovely conversation. Where can the people find you, Kito? Like if they want more Kito, where should they look? There's the Stack D podcast, obviously.
Yes.
Where's that published?
It's on YouTube, but it's also I think it's honestly probably better audio. But you can watch us if you want to. So you can find it in any podcast app. You'll find it there as well. So, and you can find it at stackd.com. There you go. And you can find me on LinkedIn or Blue Sky, and even Mastodon.
Wow.
And but these are the ways, probably kitoman.com, and the company is virtua.tech. I guess that, and also I will be at some conferences, although I'm not like Tim. I'm not everywhere. But
yeah, Tim's. You can just turn up to a conference and expect to find Tim.
Yes. But
the occasional one I skip.
I'm doing Archive AI in actually next week.
Oh, nice. Yeah, nice.
Cool.
Texas. But I don't have much settled after that. I will say, Tim, though, that I did. I was on the content board for JCon Europe, but I'm not going. I may have saw your session breeze by and gone. I'm sure I said it was a great session. But.
Appreciate it. It's, yeah, JCon is always nice too. It's the one that I can drive to, so that's
that's convenient. Nice. Cool.
Very good. Well, thank you so much for joining us in the program. Hopefully we see you and everyone else at the Code Remix Summit in Miami on May 11th through 13th we said earlier. And if you just show up, Kito, if you happen to be in Miami at the time and want to have a free minute and want to swing by, just let us know and we'll let you in.
All right, I will do that. Sounds good. Great. Thanks for having me. This has been a lot of fun. Appreciate it.
Thanks for coming, and thanks everyone for watching. Until next week. What's our topic for next week, Tim? We think we picked one out. I think it's gonna be something about interactively using code quality metrics produced by the CLI to improve your coding agent's output. I think was the topic I had.
That's plausible.
That's a big mouthful, Sam.
Yeah, I think we're like condensing it down to something a little more pithy for like the tweet about it, but that's the gist of it. One thing that Prethink Recipe does is measure various code quality metrics like cyclomatic complexity and some other ones, and so you could use that as like an input to the LLM agent to be like, hey, you went and wrote a bunch of code and the unit test passed, but you made these code quality metrics work. Could you refactor what you did a little bit? The idea being trying to get higher quality code out of your agent assistants.
Right. Very cool.
So it should be fun. See you all next week.
Yeah.
Right.
Thanks all.
Thanks all. Bye for now.